started.
All right. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Tatiana, for this opportunity, and thank you everyone for joining on a busy work day. I know it's painful, especially for some folks it may be a little early. For those us in India, it may be a little late. But thank you. It's an interesting topic. So I hope you get you know at least some good takeaways from this. Uh, what we will be discussing on a high level is the what and why of LLM evaluation and AI testing. And by AI testing, I mean testing AI systems and not just using AI tools in traditional STLC or testing activities. Uh, on how side, we will focus on how you can get started. What are some tools that you can begin experimenting or your evaluation activities or your experience, and how do you go from just setting up basic foundation structure, and then how you go on about scaling your test system or framework. Then we will take a look into a sample RAG app case study, just a high level, because I don't want to get into a lot of low level details in this first session. We can, set up something different later. And if we have time, maybe demo will be a little far-fetched, but I'll show you some of my work around some of the tools, and we'll do a Q&A if time permits. Okay, let's be quick. You already know me. I think Tatiana introduced. I've spent some years in QA automation engineering leadership across domain techs, work with people around across geographies. And I'm curious. I started my own community recently, focused around AI testing and testing in AI. So take a look. It's on Meetup, and you can also follow me on GitHub. I plan to be a little more consistent now. So I think you'll find good stuff there. Okay, let's get started. Just on a high level, why this the why uh, LLM evaluation or testing AI system uh, matters. What is the significance? So I'll give you three reasons. And those are actually big ones. So first of all, the the design itself of these systems and technologies uh, is revolves around complex behaviors and evolving use cases. So we started with simple chatbots, just content generation, request response architecture, but now already ventured into high stakes domains like healthcare, uh, defense, uh, personal decision making, a lot of areas I think you might have already heard. And the use cases and behavior are evolving. They're non-deterministic in nature. So it's very crucial for anybody who's in any way supplying or building these applications that they are evaluated and validated thoroughly. Second big point is these systems are getting more complex day by day. We are being introduced with a lot of new technologies which integrate with these foundational LLM tech, which is MCP or agentic AI or RAG or much more, right? So these integrations introduce several failure points, and it's hard to see because now more unlike your traditional software or a mobile app or web app or anything, any kind of software, it's a set of complex pipeline structure underneath. So you need to understand, uh, you need to have a visibility into the exploded view of what is actually going on underneath, and an evaluation can and testing can help us figure out which piece broke, because right now the stakes are high. You need to fix faster, you need to deliver faster, test faster. So I think having that visibility through evaluation helps us to be successful in this area. And also the third point is third big reason is the production for these AI systems is not very comfortable or not very predictive. It's it's designed to be non-deterministic. For example, there can be different types of answers for the same exact prompt or query that you give to any given model or anything, right? It's designed to perform like that. So drifts occur naturally through mechanisms like reinforced learning, or through RAG. Systems in the background can be updated on the go, or maybe something broke at the source database level, so your RAG or your LLM or your AI app can behave differently than what is intended. Maybe you when you tested it, it worked, uh, but in production it's not working. So it's very crucial that you have to have visibility into production, which I'll talk about uh, later. Is AI observability is very crucial for success here, unlike traditional software where it was, it could be integrated in later stages. uh, it also, we are also seeing new non-functional risks like toxicity, bias, uh, PII leakage, and a lot of other vulnerabilities are being introduced related to performance. Uh, it's more and becoming more and more, cost centric, right? Token consumption, and it's right. It is important, uh, and because a lot of companies they start, but the cost overhead is just too much, so they cannot go on. So that's why it's important to understand these new non-functional risk aspects. So all in all, this is why it matters. If in case your product team or your executive team thinks that it's easier, or it's like your traditional software testing cycles, just feel free or be vocal about it, raise your voices that it's not. You need to uh, understand the depth and breadth, and it's evolving. So it's very important you understand the significance of LLM evaluation, AI testing, and communicate accordingly. A little touch point on the tools. It's the list is really long. I'm just uh, mentioned some here for people who might be looking for just some tools to begin with. For example, I've divided them into the functional and non-functional aspects. So you can get started with the Deep Eval or Arise. It's a platform, and it offers traceability, integration, evaluation, and observability platform as well. It's a good one. I've used it, and it's evolving, so it's good. Uh, Ragas, yes, I'm still a little new to this, but it's specifically intended for RAG testing. It means RAG assessment. So you can look into it if once you go to that level, right? Promfu, I don't know. It's just a tool, open source, I think. So uh, again, one thing is there is no single source of truth, unlike with UI testing or traditional performance testing that we used. That either Selenium would do the job, or Playwright would do the job, or Cypress would do the job. uh, Here you might have to work with multiple tools and test frameworks or libraries. Hugging Faces, Light Eval and Evaluate are easy to work with. They have a lot of good documentation. So this is one that I started with. So it's good. Non-functional side, a lot of tools are offering integration for LLM testing, like Locust is offering an LLM Locust version to test performance or loads around LLM apps, or how the models are utilizing tokens and all those scenarios. OWASP Zap is a open source vulnerability or security testing tool from OWASP, and Fuzz AI is a library of adversarial test scenarios that you can integrate with OWASP Zap to test LLM or AI app. Guide LLM is a good one, although a little complex to set up on Windows operating system. You can do it using WSL. everything has to go in WSL or directly on Linux, and I think could be easier with Mac OS. It's a performance benchmarking tool. It's once you set it up, it's interesting. I'll show you some snips at the end. I tried it myself and I liked it. Uh, Now getting into the framework structuring part, uh, this is I want you to focus on these three core areas because these will help you along the line. So these are foundational principles of building a test framework around your AI product or LLM app. Uh, uh, so first and the I think probably the most important area is your test data sets and use cases that you need to be aware of. So focus always focus on it's an iterative process, and so this will become your core and anchor of everything, no matter if you're using three or four tools or the most advanced one you're paying using an open source or a paid tool. If you don't have this test data sets and uh, use cases figured out, if you're not solid on those, everything will not work fine. Second is metrics, which will come up based on your understanding or contextual, uh, based on the context of the use cases and the test data that you want to exercise on your product or the app. So metrics, there are a lot of metrics. Some traditional ML metrics are there. There are new people are using custom metrics based on their use cases. You can, these tools offer uh, good metrics to begin with, but as you build and develop more, you deploy to production, you might have to assess, what metrics are more relevant and contextual to your business case, right? Methodologies, there are some, I'll talk about some in later slides, where methodologies are just ways or concepts that help you uh, expand your test data sets and test cases, test scenarios. uh, uh, for example, if you're testing or building a RAG centric system, or if you're building an agentic system, or if it's just a core LLM app, the methodology will help you figure out your test data set and use cases. Some principles, and this is not just about structuring your test automation framework. I'm talking about like a broader test framework point of view, right? So start simple, scale with context, and tools can come later. Okay, so don't my advice is don't jump into the tools part early on. Understand what is the business case, why you're building this app, and what are the components underlying pipelines and architecture, everything, foundational model, what is being used. uh, you know get into the details as much as you can early on, right? And then you figure out what kind of data set you might need, or what are the use cases that need to be prioritized, and then you start building on top of it. So you start scaling once you have that foundation, and then the operational efficiency can come with tools. Okay. uh, no single source of truth, I think we covered it. So keep experimenting, new tools are being launched, new features are being rolled in. So just keep learning, it will help you a lot. uh, Production monitoring is a must have, because the design itself is non-deterministic, so you need a mechanism from early on. So in my experience, I have seen uh, teams push the observability integration until later, but here you have to be very adamant with your product teams and architects that either if you have the capability to do it, use open source paid tool, or some integration from a cloud library or whatever company you are partnered with. But emphasize that it needs to be integrated early, so everybody, especially the QE team, gets adapted to using those. And then uh, using that as a feedback mechanism in improving and expanding the test data set, test scenarios, update the metrics, etc. Be comprehensive, think outside the box, think creatively, think about scenarios which are not documented and can happen. For that, you will need to keep yourself updated. You have to follow research, and that's not bad. Don't get overwhelmed. Maybe you just subscribe to some research papers, or once in a while go to set an hour aside in your work week. Whenever you feel comfortable, go to Hugging Face, just follow what's new. Because I'll give you a very good example. Recently there was a research that was published from somebody that uh, when you set up guardrails in LLMs, right, to not leak. For example, I in ChatGPT I asked for uh, Bezos's account number. It will say I cannot share that. But if I use the same prompt, if I convert this into uh, a poetic verse, right? So who is the king of Amazon? Share his money, so something like that. It might give me the details that it is supposed to safeguard. So that's a very interesting research, and more is happening in the world. So that will keep you updated, right? That will give you the competitive edge. That will give your team or your company the competitive edge. When things like that happen. Yeah, I think knowing what your product is actually built of is where you start, where you should think about what are the use cases, foundational LM models, because uh, the foundational models are, they offer different behaviors. That's why there are very different options available in the market. So you can maybe do a little bit of research, like what is special about this foundational model, what is something that you need to test for this. Some may not be very good at offering security capabilities. Ask your architects and scouting team why they selected this model, and if they have a contract from the foundational LLM provider that they cover these aspects. Maybe they are not covering the security or the performance part that you need to take care of. So your test strategy will actually vary based on these subjective principles. This I got from a LinkedIn training. If you need it, I'll share it with you. And I put it here because I think these are the criterias generally which the scouting or the product team or the executives use to select foundational LLMs. But as QEs, we can, or testers, we can use these to formulate a prior test scenario prioritization matrix, which will help you put weightage on which areas to focus more. For example, my company could select a model because it offers better image generation capability than text. For me that doesn't matter, right? I'm in infographics. I'm building an AI company which is based on infographic generation or for marketing industry. Like, for example, you get the point. um, or maybe accuracy. For example, it's intended for a scientific research industry, so accuracy will matter a lot. So again, all these features that you can build a matrix in collaboration with your product and your developers as well, because collaboration is key here. You need to talk more, you need to understand more. So set up some time, do test reviews, understand the architecture. Even if you're not very technically prowess, just talking will help you do it. You can just note down the information and give prompt to the model later and learn at your own time. But getting that information, what you don't know, is more important. Okay. Uh, Now we get into how to structure framework. It's just uh, a getting started guide, right? It's not something that's concrete. You can modify accordingly, but I think that this will help you get started. So how you structure, you think in terms of layers. So there's your evaluation layer first, which measures the functional aspects of your system or your app. Um, and again, these are just sample metrics that I've used here: hallucination, relevance, correctness. So it will matter what use cases that are being taken into consideration, or you want a general evaluation. You can start with that uh, early on, but then update later in iterative cycles. So that evaluation layer will take care of the functional aspects of the application. Performance layer will uh, take care of tracking latency, throughput, requests per second. Basically, you'll have to work on defining uh, the SLOs, the performance objectives, thresholds, uh, benchmarks, and then based on those, you can put some test scenarios in this particular layer. Security layer is also very important. Prompt injection is just one type of vulnerability or adversarial attacking mechanism that you need to consider, and there are others. So for this, you can take a look at a list released recently from WASP, top 10 around LLM. So they have an LLM focus top 10 list, so that you can refer to get an idea around more vulnerabilities. But again, start simple. You don't have to do everything from the get-go. Just pick one scenario from these areas and build on top of those. And observability layer, just talk to your development team if you can integrate in your test framework, or it can be integrated at a pipeline or CI level, or the development side. Whatever is feasible, it's important. So I just put it here so that it's considered as part of overall quality strategy, rather than test or development or product strategy, right? So observability needs to be taken into account when you're designing or developing uh, any such system. Once you have the base or the core framework, how do you scale it? So there are four areas which can help you scale or into, basically this answers how you support a production grade application or system. So data sets are, I think, the anchor here. So then this is my suggestion. There's no book or concrete uh, guidance around this. Based on my study and experience, you can map your test data sets in three categories. One is golden, which is your consultant labeled, or SMEs labeled, or the people who are domain experts, right, or your POs. So they will help you build golden data, test data set scenarios, behavior, and all those things. Based on those, you can generate more silver grade test data set, which is synthetic. You can prompt different uh, models or apps. You can generate more to test based on those foundational test data sets and scenarios, use cases, etc. Live sampled is the third category, which will come into picture uh, based on the observability that is happening when the application is live, and how the real users are actually using it. So I think these three categories will help you, and you can also use versions of different data sets in these categories further, right? So depends on you or your team's use case, uh, or how you scale. Second area is the metrics. Start with simple ones. What the tool, or what are general ML based metrics like blue, rouge, or uh, faithfulness, and I think lot many are there. The list is just growing day by day, and then you may need to just filter out using specific to your use cases. So some are more relevant, for example, for rack system, contextual relevance, contextual faithfulness, all those contextual correctness, like these. Metrics are offered by tools, or you can do it yourself. And uh, a lit- uh, uh, and doing it yourself is a little too advanced, so just use what the tools offer. Uh, Contextual metrics, I think, yeah, this is also an important aspect of scaling the framework, because uh, the domain that you are working in will help you, uh, uh, is defines the subjectivity of your test strategy in the testing system. So some metrics can differ based on your the industry that you're working in. For example, for healthcare, and I think we touched a little bit earlier. For example, for research based, the metrics related to accuracy should be a priority, like that, right? Combinatorial, yes, I think some rag based, yeah. So some rag based metrics are already combinatorial in nature, but some tools like Deep Eval, they offer, I think, the ability to build custom metrics as well. Uh, but yeah, a little advanced. Even I have not got into that particular area myself, but it can be done. Methodology. So it basically it helps you to scale or expand the test scenarios or the test data sets that you have, right? So, for example, if I want to test a particular use case with a prompt sensitivity methodology, so how can I form my or exercise my test cases around this? For example, uh, I want to test the same scenario or a use case uh, uh, where the scenario is about testing the retrieval accuracy of the RAG system, right? But I want to test it using prompt sensitivity technique. So, if what are the different variations, or the minor variations or major variations in the same prompt, uh, that can lead to different behavior of the application. Is it affecting it? Because sometimes, for example, using a little twisted words, or incorrect grammar, or incorrectly formulated prompts, uh, number using numbers instead of words, like that. So how the behavior is, the range of the behavior is what we are after. So these methodologies, again, there can be many, uh, uh, will help you expand your existing test scenarios and help you test uh, confidently around the range of the behavior of the responses from the system. Uh, CI/CD integration, yes, that is crucial, and establishing PR gates early on is good. So talk about setting up these gates in the CI pipelines with your developers and architect. Emphasize the priority around these. What needs to be tested? You need to build the CI architecture so that everything can be accommodated as you scale your development and uh, in testing. So, for example, in the beginning development phase, it could be just the unit test gates around PRs, but eventually you want to implement other aspects as well. For example, performance baseline comparison, or security exposure, or vulnerability exposure, uh, your functional testing around the application that you eventually will build. So the architecture has to be accommodating for those as you progress. So talk and collaborate early on how it can be achieved, or how it can be achieved in an efficient way. Okay. And for example, you'll have to consider the resource cost around it, so you don't get stuck when it is needed. So talk to your DevOps or your architect or development teams. Production monitoring is again an important aspect. So if it's part of the CI/CD or if it's part of your testing framework, doesn't matter. It needs to be there in some or the other form, right? Because it will help you understand how it's actually performing. Then use that uh, uh, data to for insights to actually update your overall test scenarios or the way or the test strategy, whatever. uh, and ironically, I put human in the loop in the CI/CD part, which is kind of intended for the automation stuff. But for these systems, I think it's important uh, to have a human in the loop test layer, right? It can be your QA team or it can be your product or consulting teams, whatever. But don't uh, rely 100% on the mechanisms that you set up. Always have some humans to actually test from your team, and never go never give a go ahead just based on the pipelines. They are all working fine. Whatever tests we have, everything is working. Always keep a little bit of scope of testing it yourself, or with the help of some experts uh, in your department or your company. Okay, so that's how you basically can uh, you can use these anchors to scale the framework, which ultimately will evolve into something good that can support once the system is in production. And you can track it well, you can ensure its quality well. And it's a small simple tool comparer that I've added here. So most of the tools in are open source, so you can use them. uh, Different areas they offer: load testing, vulnerability testing, evaluation, traceability, observability. So just figure out your tool stack, experiment, that would be good. But if you don't have time, you can use any simple and basic ones. Every tool is evolving, and everything is not the best, but it's not the worst either, right? A test scenario template. So when you're writing test scenarios, you need to think about test cases. When you need to think about some base scenarios, like what is the core task that is intended, core use cases. What is, if we are using some external integration like MCP or agents or RAG, what is the intended usage, if it correctly works or fetches the tools and sources, right? How it will be maintained. Uh, do we need to externally fine tune or train the application ourselves? How will we compare the results after that? So things like that. Uh, how do we test multi-turn conversation scenarios and long context windows, where it starts to fall apart, uh, and where it doesn't? Because recently somebody also did a small research around that big context windows that these companies who release LLM models, it's just a number. As soon as you go up to a certain extent, uh, the context windows starts to fall apart, and it's consistent across all models. So don't believe what these LLM companies are saying, because it's their business. They will tell it's the best, and then they'll release another model saying that the previous one was the worst. So don't believe them blindly, and what they release, because right now there's too much competition in this space. So uh, think objectively, and don't trust what the companies are marketing for themselves, because a lot of new models or open source models on Hugging Face I've seen, uh, there are close to zero. Last time I checked, there was uh, none of the metrics on the model card that Hugging Face has. Nothing was there about the security aspect of the model. So people just get excited, but they need to think objectively. uh, so you know so being aware, I think, will really help in this whole scenario. uh, Safety compliance, again, what is the exact thing that you are after or your team is after? uh, in some cases, tonality will matter more than some other aspect of compliance or safety. uh, in some cases there should be absolutely, I think in most of the cases there should not be any personal information exposure. uh, but again, it's very subjective, so figure out your own use cases. These are uh, some sample ones, so there can be more, but it can help you get started. Now we'll just get into, I think we have a little bit over time, so I'll be a little quick. uh, Imagine just somebody building a RAG chatbot for a fintech compliance team. It has to retrieve PDF from government sources, and it uses GPT-4 Mini in the background. Here, the stakes are high. Wrong advice or wrong retrieval can lead to fines, which actually happened with Deloitte two times. You can Google it if you don't know. So overall test strategy, like whatever we comment, start early from the design phase, create data set with, collaborate with your POs, with your consultants, with your developers. Figure out the component layers that are involved, uh, what exactly is going on, what technology are you using, which third party integration or whatever paid party integration you are using, or how you can establish CI gates, so that once the app is in near to production or in production, the quality itself, the quality engine goes on. You don't have to manually do it. And How do you monitor drift in production? How do you set up alerts? All these things uh, can be treated as a QA team's responsibility. So you need to ask if you don't know how to do these. The sample workflow will look like: user interacts, submits a query, query is then broken down, and then retrieval mechanism actually goes and looks for the source documents or databases. Then it uh, fetches the information, and then the model will generate the response, validate and log whatever it's doing. uh, you know bit like a verbose logging mechanism, like we see on the thinking mode or chain of thought mode in the LLM apps. And then ultimately it will stream the cited answer. So we need to verify whether the correct sources are being fetched, whether the response is being crafted correctly, uh, whether if it's the safeguard or guardrail mechanisms that you have set are working fine. And When the answer is shown to the user, it has the correct citations, and they are correctly mapping with the retrieved sources. So just a sample scenario that we are talking about. Uh, yeah, some, I think, retrieval testing when you are doing a RAG testing is the first important thing. Some metrics around those, you can look more around these: contextual recall, contextual precision, faithfulness, like that. uh, Quality testing, final answer response, how good is it? If it's hallucinating, how do you test for those? How do you verify the correctness, uh, accuracy, etc. Performance, security, we already discussed, but they are also very important, so that your token usage or your the overall operational efficiency of the system is also being monitored or being tested, so that you don't go overboard with any such thing. It may work fine, but if it's not working under the budget, then it can crash. Some good places to start: Hugging Face as an evaluation guidebook. I'll paste the link, but you can just Google it. It will direct you there. I have a white paper on my LinkedIn uh, profile. I think that is also good. It will give you an overall idea of what we discussed. And then this Arxiv has research papers. You can go and use some, I think labels are there, CSAI, something like that. So it will give you mails regularly when something new is being published. LLM tools, yes, you can use those for researching and or keeping you up to date. Uh, ISTQB has two certifications. One is around Gen AI specifically, and one is a broader AI testing. Both are good. It's free. The syllabus is free. You don't need to pay anything just to access the information, and they're very good resources. uh, yeah, LinkedIn, I think a lot of people are doing a lot of new things in the space. You can just follow some people who are posting content and their work publicly. That can be a good, that will give you a good idea on what to follow. YouTube, yes, a lot of content around YouTube. And there's a foundational course on testing ML models on Test Automation University. It's free. I think if you are really new in this field, that is where you can actually begin. That's very good. It will talk about how you test ML models, and then once you have that foundation understanding, you move into the AI and LLM space. That is all. If you have any questions, you can throw in. Let me just show you.
Yeah, thank you, Shreyansh. This was great. I'd love to see more structured approach to testing LLMs, and thank you for sharing that with us. We have a few questions in chat. So Manuel was asking about any online classes that teach LLM evaluation, or do you teach LLM evaluation? And can you share? And I think you mentioned one class, right? Like if you can share the link with our audience, that'd be great.
Yeah, Manuel, I'm actually thinking about that, and you can join my group on Meetup, and or maybe just DM me. I'll help you out. I'm actually working on writing a book around this space, which will be a little bit more detailed and thorough, and help anyone get started. And if I'm also thinking about formulating a course. Uh, so once it's there, I will definitely share with you, Tatiana, and you can share with the group.
Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah, can you hear
Go
me?
ahead.
Yeah,
Yes, go ahead.
because you don't know how frustrating it is to find resources on this topic. I I'm trying to finish a Udemy class that claims to do this, and also another class, a live class that is streaming from India, that has also been very frustrating because it's not presenting all this. Pretty much right now, what you just did is kind of like an outline for a syllabus for the class, but actually doing it or learning about it, I've been finding it so difficult. It's very frustrating, and so that's why this is my frustration. I actually did DM you on LinkedIn asking you about your meetup, because if your meetup is online, that would be awesome. I'm in the Bay Area. I don't know where you're based out of, but I mean, I'm getting up at 6:30 in the morning to watch this class from India that is, I'm finding it very, very not that helpful. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, for me, that's my personal experience. It's just frustration. And then there's some classes that claim to do it, but they're way too expensive. And I'm like, I'm unemployed. So,
Yeah. Well, Manuel, we're living here in the times of transformation, right? So like no one knows how to do this right. Anyone who's doing this are true innovators. They're living on the edge of the change. They have to do all of this work themselves. So it's not that, like we just don't have people who actually fully understand how to do this well, because we all have to learn right now. Like even Shreyansh, I bet he'll tell you like, hey, I know this much, but I don't know how, to probably do it perfectly, right? So it's okay to be frustrated in this situation. But I think we should funnel that frustration in trying to figure things out ourselves as well. And when the innovation comes, we have to learn, we have to find like, that's the tension that comes with innovation. The adoption is always tension, right? So don't be frustrated, be inspired, I would say. And then yeah, 1 hour is not enough clearly to share how to do this well, but I think this is a great start. And so, Shreyansh, if you could go deeper into any of these kind of verticals that you shared today, right? Like, we're happy to have you back. We can be your practice audience for your, future training.
And actually, just
Yeah, no,
if I can just do one final comment to what you said, Shreyas, is it's great that you're thinking about doing the book, and I'll support it. But my thinking, because like you said, and we all know this is a domain that is changing weekly. I think a
Yep.
class would be more achievable and more easier to keep updated. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
Than a book, because you could write a book, but then by the time you're done, some new new tool has come up, and it's like, oh, I can't. So a class would be more to be able to keep up with everything.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. I agree. Writing books right now is kind of challenging because they're going to get outdated very quickly. All right. But yeah, it's still worth the effort, in my opinion. Let's see. We have a few more minutes and there are more questions. Please share your meetup and how to connect with you. So if you can put your LinkedIn and maybe meetup link, that'd be great. Um, can we build a metrics like semantic validation, similarity scoring within our current POM framework, or you feel we should use this with this framework like Deep Eval or Prompt Foo? Can we please take up more questions? We're running with time. Okay. Yeah, so can we build the metrics? And then there was another question about wondering if you have any KPIs figured out similar to traditional code coverage or test coverage metrics.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think you can start with the basic ones, right? What tools offer or what the LLMs are, you know, basically they are just evolved metrics from your traditional ML testing, right? So that's why I recommended the course that is there on Test Automation University. It will help you get the foundational understanding of these metrics, and then you can follow the LLM ones, right? So, and it's very subjective. It's evolving. The technologies itself are evolving. uh, Even I started with some basic ones, and now I'm getting into the more rags intended space, like contextual precision, contextual recall. There are a very long list of metrics, but you know you can just get started with the basic foundational ones. It's important to understand the paradigm that is revolving around these applications, right? So it's again, if you go back to the principle, start simple. Tools and metrics will come later. So once you have the use cases figured out, you can always use any resource, or you can use LLM tools to figure out what metrics fits best in this case, because the list is too long. It is not possible to just remember beyond a couple of them.
yeah,
I hope that answers.
Shreyansh, just one question on this. So, when we talk about metrics, there are like n number of metrics which are available today, starting with let's say the fuzzy wuzzy approach, the semantic
Mhm.
validation, the sentiment validations, or your similarity scorings, which
Yeah.
eventually these test frameworks are also using, whether it is DBevel or PromptFoo or any other frameworks. So, so if you see, let's say, for example, we talk about just semantic validation, right? So
Mhm.
it actually calculates the cosine function within
Similarity.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So this cosine function can also be calculated uh, using these dependencies within the Java Selenium POM framework as well. So if
Yeah.
today we all are using UI automation frameworks, whether it is
Mhm.
Selenium or let's say Puppeteer or Playwright, can we is it a good practice to extend all these metrics into
Mhm.
our own UI framework? or it is a best practice to move towards these kind of test frameworks, which
Yeah.
can be integrated with our current UI automation ecosystem?
Yeah, that's a very good question, actually, Sadhvi. So, in my last role, this particular challenge and question came up in our discussion as well. And so we had a .NET framework supporting a number of products already, and there are libraries which can be integrated within the .NET ecosystem as well to test LLM powered apps or whatever, right? My suggestion it would be to integrate as much, because I think the team is comfortable and it's the things are stable. So don't
Mm,
scrape it immediately, okay? But parallelly start building POCs around the new tools and new frameworks, because uh, you if you think long terms, because this is what I got in response from the AI scientists that were working with us, is right now it may be able to support, but as these tools and technologies integrate, you or your team may not be able to keep up uh, more. And now it's a role reversal thing that is happening. So like when we go back, it was difficult to find people working on new tools, but as you progress in the AI space or LM space, again, I'm not sure what your organization's roadmap look like. Most likely, it will be related to somewhat with the AI ecosystem. So as things move forward, it will become difficult to hire people or find testers who can, expand the existing uh, tool or frameworks that you have set up for the traditional apps, but are still a little bit capable to test LLMs and AI apps. So parallelly start
mm,
building POCs so that once you need to transition, you can do it effectively without much stress.
yeah.
So eventually you will have to migrate.
Yeah, actually, the problem is that, sorry, I'll just take one more minute on this. The problem over here is that even if you add it to your current framework, eventually you're adding a tech debt because
Yes.
you will have to move to these frameworks. And as of today, none of these frameworks provide any direct integration with these test frameworks. Like if we are
Yes.
talking about the Selenium frameworks, Puppeteer, Playwright frameworks, none of them provide a direct integration. You have to
Yeah.
uncover the REST APIs of, let's say, TPEval to use it or PromptFoo to use it as an
Mhm.
integration unit. So
Yeah.
eventually, we all have to work in those frameworks. The question is that
Absolutely.
should we actually invest our time into building any integration units within our framework? I sometimes is in a mode that we should not be investing our time into our current frameworks and build these.
Yeah, I think it depends. If it's absolutely need based, you can do it for some time, maybe build a plan around it. Like, we'll continue to support for like couple of quarters, and then we eventually will start phasing out this support, and we have to invest iteratively. We'll have to allocate some time for your team members or engineers to start developing POCs, and parallelly the new frameworks or new integrating new tools or the new tool ecosystem around validation. So follow an iterative approach, talk with your executives or your product owners, whoever is who can help you with this. Because if it's absolutely necessary, you cannot build in a day. It will take some time, right? So if current framework and system is able to support, that is fine, but eventually you have to plan to iteratively build new systems, or maybe phase out this one. You can take a call later when you have a new one. Right now, maybe continue with it for some time. Depends on your use case, maybe for a quarter or two.
All right, folks, we are out of time, unfortunately. And I do understand that Shreyansh, this was probably an introduction into the testing the LLMs, right? Like in an hour, what really you can cover such not much. So we definitely need more of these sessions. And thank you so much for starting these. You're always welcome back to share more with our audience. And feel free, folks, to connect with Shreyansh on LinkedIn, join his meetup. connect with me as well, send us questions, send us suggestions. So we're happy to have more of these events and continue this discussion. So thank you all for joining today, and I'll see you all next time.
Thank you. And if anyone is particularly looking for more deep dive, you can always reach out to me, and Tatiana and I will prepare something,
Yep.
moving forward.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you,
Cool. Thank you so
Shreyansh.
much.
Yep. Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.